Hello and welcome to another edition of Diaspora Weekly. My name is Jermaine Nkrumah and you're watching Diaspora Network Television. And today we have a familiar face. I'm not going to show her to you yet until we go to the jungle. So stay tuned for the jungle. In today's jungle, I want to touch on a conversation that I had just a couple of days ago with a gentleman. We spoke extensively about general matters, and then it turns out he's a chief. And throughout the conversation, I'm just saying, oh, that's pretty amazing. You have a good take on things, intellectual, everything. But then he tells me that, yeah, when he speaks to people, when people know that he's a chief and they speak to him, they're always surprised that, oh, wow, you're a chief. And, oh, wow, you know, it's almost like chiefs are not supposed to be intellectual. But I want to take the opportunity to say this. Like every group, it is a few bad apples that define the whole group. I can tell you the traditional leaders in Ghana are some of the most sophisticated, some smartest, but you hear of a few that does some of the most egregious things, and then they become the face of it. And so I want to tell you that I'm particularly very happy with the direction that the chieftaincy area is going. A lot of diasporans are coming back, taking up traditional leadership. And it's beginning to look position where the chieftaincy institution is supposed to be. I mean, almost everywhere you go, the Gamancha, Santehene, Otumfo, Ochehene, all these guys came from abroad. They're diasporans. And I know it's very hard for people to put diasporan and traditional leadership in the same box. But I can tell you, these people are shaping the identity of the traditional institutions around here. And so next time you see a chief, they have on their regalia and everything, don't just assume that he's one of those who sits in a village, marry 500 wives, and just sell land to anybody who has a couple of cities together. This institution is really developing into a very intellectual institution. And we need to encourage that, and we need to encourage all of you in the diaspora who are affiliated to seats in your traditional area. Come back, pick them up, because you know what? As we go forward with this democratic dispensation, it's a part of our constitution that allocates a great deal of a significant role to traditional leaders. And we can't leave it to just a few bad apples who can put their name together, but then who invariably tend to shape what the institution looks like. So for today, that's the jungle. Stay tuned and we'll be right back with Diaspora Weekly.
What's cool, fresh and trendy with a new look? Makes you feel real good, that refreshing vibe. Satisfies you right just the way you like. Do you know? Do you know? Do you know? Ain't gotta do it alone. Specialized makes you flow. Anytime, anywhere. Specialized, feel different. Always think specialized. Special ice, natural mineral water. Feel different. Think special. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Welcome back to Diaspora Weekly. I want you to meet Chantel Lahmer. I can't get your last name right. I'm sorry.
Yes.
What is it? Say Chantel
Chantel Lahmer.
Lahmer.
Yes.
Okay, so I got it right. Chantel, welcome.
Nice to have you.
Very good, very
Thank
good.
you.
We haven't had you here for quite a while.
Yes, it's been a couple of months, even years. I
Yes,
think.
yes. What feedback did you get from your friends when they saw your video?
Okay, some friends saw it because I shared it with them. And in the beginning, I was a bit nervous to put myself out there, but the feedback was amazing. Family, friends, and even friends from extended family, everyone was really intrigued. Yes.
And then there's the part that I know you don't want to talk about. A guy calls me from United States that you're his wife.
Oh, yeah.
And I should put you in touch with him.
There were a couple of these comments as well.
Oh,
Yes, you're
really?
right. Yes.
Very good, very good. So what's it been like? It's been, like you said, 2 years, and what have you been up to?
2 years. I was studying, working, and just, living life.
And
Yes.
you went back to Dortmund.
Yes.
Okay. And I think for soccer fans, I think Dortmund has a pretty good team, right?
Yes.
Football team. Which is
big.
better? Is it Dortmund or Bayern Munich?
I'm not really big into soccer,
Yeah.
but because I've lived in Dortmund all my life, I
Yeah.
have to reside with Borussia Dortmund for sure. Yes.
Okay, guys in the studio, which is better, Dortmund or Bayern Munich? Because I hear Bayern Munich quite more than Dortmund.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not too much into soccer,
Okay,
but by heart,
I'm just being.
I'll reside with them for life.
I'm just trying to be mischievous. Anyway, welcome. So, you're now back.
Yes.
You're relocated to Ghana.
Yes.
Interesting. The last time you came here, you were contemplating it.
I actually looked back at our first interview, and it was different to see what kind of space I was in that time around, because that was the very beginning of even putting my mind into actually taking the step and being serious about relocating. And now I have actually relocated.
Wow. So, what you remind me of the two Boateng brothers, Germans, of Ghanaian father.
Yes, the dad.
And is it a German mother?
German mom, yes.
German mom. One was fair and the other one was dark. I don't know, both of them had the same mom or?
I'm not too sure as to what the family.
But I know the fairer guy, who's we've called half caste, right? He chose to play for Ghana, but the darker guy chose to play for Germany. Interesting. And you, sort of like the same way, you have siblings.
Yes.
Are they all fair and?
Yes. I mean, they are both raised Ghanaian German household. Yes.
Yeah. But appearance-wise, are they all half
So my
caste
younger
looking?
siblings are also same skin complexion. My older brother is fully Ghanaian.
Fully Ghanaian.
Yes.
And he's back in Germany.
Yes.
So
They're all
we have the same thing. You are the one but you're relocated instead.
Yes.
Interesting.
I mean, that's what it looks like right now.
Right. So what drove it? What drove the decision to relocate?
I think I've been on this journey for, at least it started a couple of years ago when I first actually came to Ghana for a couple of months to do my first internship. That was in 2019 in February. And I think when I left to go back to Germany again, I never really felt the same. And from there on, the trips to Ghana became more frequent, and I could actually imagine myself living here. So I think it was a longer journey, but that time around I didn't really have a plan as to how I would actually go about it, and became more serious about this just in the last 2 years, I would say.
You know, sometimes they say some things are for you, but some things are not for you. I'm trying to dig into this. Your mom is Ghanaian.
Yes.
And your father is German.
German, yes.
And you have 3 other siblings. Are they also inclined towards Ghana as you are?
I would say we were both, all of us were raised in the same household. But I would say personality-wise and lifestyle-wise, every one of us is very much different from each other.
Right.
And I definitely have to say that from all of us, I probably picked up this side the most.
Okay.
So all of them are always, eager, the Ghanaian culture, tradition. It's something that we've been brought up with. But actually having this this hunger, I would say, to constantly be here and to also establish yourself here, what I would say lays on me more. And I would say that also depends on how much, obviously, your mother also passes forward. So
yeah, but I would imagine your mother passed on to all four of you evenly,
yes.
but it registered with you more, it seemed like.
I don't know. I cannot really put my finger on it and say that's it.
Yeah.
But I would say I relate to my mother in many different ways.
Yeah.
And I would say when she left Ghana, she was about my age. And many things that I would say she wanted to pass forward to the next generation, she passed on to me.
Okay.
So ever since a young age, I was very involved with her, just private life or so, anything Ghana related, I was probably most inclined, I would say. And also being the eldest daughter, you get passed on, I would say, most of the responsibilities, most of the things that a mother just passes on to the next generation.
Okay.
Which then happens to be obviously the Ghanaian side more than the German side.
Yeah, the reason why I keep it, because I think what is playing in your family is playing in millions of diaspora family where same parents give the same upbringing to same children, but invariably you find one that's gravitating towards Africa more than the rest. And I'm trying to I'm trying to find out if you find something click. Maybe you can put a finger, okay, maybe this is what it was. I can't tell.
I cannot really put my finger on it and say this is what makes the difference amongst the siblings. But what I've noticed is that usually the way the relationship of the parent is towards the homeland or the mother country is how the children also develop their relationship. So there are certain parents that have moved to Europe, to various different countries, and have kind of like lost the touch with their home country. And I feel like that you can see with the next generation. But I cannot put my finger down and say sibling wise. I just think we're all different. We take up things differently. And something as simple as cooking, for example. If you are in a household and your mother, you are the one that always gets taught the dishes, the traditions, all of that, you naturally gravitate towards
actually that's a very good example because a mother may have 3 children. They say girls or whatever, and she might teach all of them the same thing, but one will pick up cooking more than the rest of them.
True, yeah.
Okay, maybe that's what it is. All right, so how is that going since you've been in Ghana? How long ago did you come back fully?
I flew in one way a month ago.
Wow.
I actually booked a one-way ticket and I came on Valentine's Day, actually 14th of February. So it's been roughly a bit more than a month right now. Yes.
But you bought a one-way ticket.
I did.
So you've decided.
Because I could not really put, like I don't really have an end date.
Yeah.
And also I had to up my luggage. So I added another luggage and then I was looking at my returning dates, but I didn't really want to put a timestamp to it and say, okay, that's when I will fly back to maybe visit my family or something. So I just said, let's just do it one way and 3 luggages. So
1 way, 3 luggage.
Yes, one way.
A lot of people, sometimes when you're buying a ticket, the return is about the same price as one way anyway. So why one way?
I mean, it's funny because I remember back in the days, you would get threatened, not me personally, but there's this notion of, if you don't behave, you get a one-way ticket to Africa, Like parents would say, if you don't act right, you're going home straight. But now I was actually kind of excited to book it because I was ready to move. I was ready to leave.
Wait, so some parents use that to threaten their kids?
Yes.
You get a one-way ticket to Africa.
And it's not only Ghana. I think it happens with African countries as well. Like sometimes you even see these videos on social media where a child thinks he or she is going on vacation. Before you know, the boarding gate says, I don't know, Lagos or Kingala, and they're just gonna be sent home for like a good disciplining for a month or 2. So
interesting.
It is a saying, like if you don't act right, one-way tickets.
I don't know. I've never threatened my kids like that before, so I don't know. Anyway, how's that going since you've been back?
I feel like I have not been. I'm still adjusting myself. I feel like I have not really found my routines yet, and I'm still learning so much on a daily basis, even. But I think I have what it takes to really find myself in the system and stay here for a longer period. To be honest. Yeah.
And there's nothing better to hold you grounded than the significant other.
True, yes.
Okay.
I mean, having a really close circle of, the best relationships, close family circle is important. So I have a lot of respect for people that relocate to countries where there are absolutely no family members, no friends, no relationships, and they establish themselves completely being a stranger. And fortunately, I did not have to go through that here.
And just so you guys watching, I don't want to have another call from another somebody in New Zealand say that's his next wife. What do you have to say to people like that?
Absolutely nothing at this point. Nothing.
I'm trying to put you on a spot, but you're not cooperating with me.
I am not cooperating with it. So.
All right, very good. So you bought a one-way ticket and you're here and you're still adjusting. What if it doesn't work out?
I reevaluated every good possibility that can happen, and what is actually the worst thing that could happen. Like, what is the worst thing that could happen to me? The worst thing is I miss my family so much that I want to go home, and then I will just go home. But I've been here so many times over, not a couple of times over a couple of months maybe, but I think I've already bridged that gap of really feeling homesick and wanting to be back home. Obviously, I do miss my siblings, I miss my parents, I miss many, many good friends from back home, but that's just what it is.
Are you making good friends here, though?
I would say it has been a journey, and I think you get to meet very interesting people, but it's some way, I would say. And I think a lot of people go through that when they come here. Obviously, you can socialize really easily, but I think it's more important to have very meaningful, deep relationships, I would say, and friendships that you can rely on every now and then, especially when you don't have your immediate family around.
Yeah.
And I would say in a city like Accra, where life is very fast-paced, sometimes it can be a bit difficult, yes.
Do you think there are more people in Germany or in the diaspora as a whole who want to come home but do not have a way to come? Have you run into some of those?
I think, I get some kind of feedback every now and then, but I think especially after that huge wave of 2019, year of return, many people actually relocating either on their own or with their significant others or even whole families. You do see a trend, especially on social media, of many people also saying, we underestimated how hard this is and we're moving back home. So, I would say
they underestimated how hard what?
Life here is not easy, That's just my opinion.
Life where? Here or there?
Here in Ghana.
Okay.
And I feel like a lot of people took the motivation to say, and I think it's not enough to say, oh, I want to go home, I want to connect with the motherland. Like, you need to really have a plan as to how your daily life is going to look like, your source of income, your cost of living. These are some really, really important points, I would say, that many people underestimate, in my opinion.
Right.
Especially when you do not have people that you can fall back on. I think it can be quite challenging. Yes.
Yeah, so life is not easy in Ghana. I agree with you 100%. Compared to Germany, how are those two?
I would say majority of people from the diaspora coming here, or something that I noticed when coming here, I think if you look at the different classes within the Ghanaian society and most of the westernized societies, when you come here and you're here for a holiday and you change money and you go to all these nice places, you, how should I put this? I think your quality of life might seem higher than what you live at home at times, but it is ridiculously expensive. And that is actually my first learning, I would say, is that your holiday budget does not equal your everyday life budget here.
Right.
So I think...
Because you come down, say, okay, I'm going to spend 2 weeks, okay, $2,000. I'm going to, once it's gone, 2 weeks, I'm going back. But now you're here. So if that $2,000 runs out, you're still...
And I think what happens so often, and I was really shocked in the beginning because I felt like money was always leaving my pocket. You spend so much money on a daily for things that you don't really take into consideration, I think. Like, you have so many petty transactions, so many small things. You're always, money is always flowing. Whereas I feel like back home, because in Germany, for example, if you look at the middle class, it's quite broad. You have the middle class, for example, majority taking public transportation, which is more cost efficient than, for example, here driving the car. You have a lot of places to go to, or a lot of means of transport, for example, of means of getting around where you don't have to spend as much.
I can identify with that because I'm going to show you something. This is a $50 bill. It's been in my wallet for God knows how long. Even when I was back in the States. Never had the need to use it. But over here, just like you're saying, you can't keep the cash in your pocket long enough. It's constantly flying.
It's always flowing. And the first thing I did was when I came here, I told myself, I want to live for a whole month and actually see what a month costs me, from transportation to food to everything. I wanted to really know how much I am spending, because I have a very precise, let's say plus minus 10 euros number that I spend back at home, from insurances to everything in total. And I tried tracking my expenses. I gave up after a couple of days because I could not even keep up with how money is.
But overall, though, I'm sure you spend more there than here when you consider the exchange rate.
The exchange rate from when is also the question. Because the exchange rate now obviously favors me when I change money, because it has almost doubled in value. But I would just say the expenses have shifted. So there's a bunch of things that I do not have to pay for here. There are a couple of things that I spend a lot of money on here that I just don't do at home. But I think one thing that I did quite early on my journey was I tried as much as possible to cut down my expenses here and not get used to a lifestyle that I cannot sustain long term.
Absolutely.
And that is key. And I feel like you just have to be realistic with how much money can I spend on my life every month. There are certain things that for me are not negotiable that I just have to spend more on. There are other things where I feel like if I make a conscious decision to spend less, it just favors me.
Good. And so we're going to go on a quick break. But one thing, if there's anything to take away from what we just had a conversation on, is that if you're watching this and you live in the diaspora, get this, your budget and lifestyle during your vacation home is a completely different animal than your budget and your lifestyle when you move back. On that note, stay tuned. We'll be right back. This is Diaspora Weekly.
What's cool, fresh and trendy with a new look? Makes you feel real good, that refreshing vibe. Satisfies you right just the way you like. Do you know? Do you know? Do you know? Ain't gotta do it alone. Specialized makes you flow. Anytime, anywhere. Specialized, feel different. Always think specialized. Special Ice Natural Mineral
water. Feel different. Think special. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Hello and welcome back to our continued conversation with Chantel Lahmer.
Yes.
Got it right.
Got it. Yes.
Got it.
that's on.
Okay. So now you're here. And certainly you didn't come here and started pulling the application. You came here with something in your pocket. What was it?
So before I even made the move here, first thing I did was obviously look for some kind of income that I can receive whilst I am working here. So quite at the beginning of my journey, I knew that one of the things that would make my life easier would be to obviously earn in euros or earn in a foreign currency. So I looked up the biggest corporations, organizations, the biggest players here in Accra, German companies that also look for people to send abroad. And I think that already started last year in September, October. I was constantly researching, and I actually found a federal German enterprise that is eager to send Germans abroad to work in Ghana, which is perfect for me.
Wow.
So, yeah, I happened to actually be in Ghana in October for a family vacation, and the role vacancy popped up in the morning. I called them that very same day saying, what a coincidence, I'm in Accra, I have some questions, can I pass by? So the next day I went to the office and I brought all my documents. I'd already applied online, but I brought all my documents and had a bunch of questions, and it just asked everything that I would usually ask after an interview. So I really was here at the perfect time. And yes, that actually worked out.
So that formula, I haven't heard anybody talk about that formula. Let's say you're a second generation German, French, American, British. But these countries are constantly looking, they have organizations down on the ground that are working. And because of your natural connection to Ghana, when you come here, at least it's not as much a culture shock as a German, a white German who has never been here before. I think if this organization is bringing that German to Ghana, they're going to ask, well, if you're good, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, right? The demands that they will put on the organization is far more than what you probably would. Is that what the formula is?
I think it's probably the other way around. So for a lot of international corporations, they have country offices spread all around the world.
Right.
And they are actively looking for people that obviously are German by passport on paper, and look for Germans to actually go out to these country offices in the various different countries. But what I've noticed is that to send them out, and that is what actually makes an expat an expat, you usually get reimbursed for certain lifestyle changes.
Right.
So an expat is actually someone who is working and living in not his or her country of residence and receives an expatriate allowance, I think it's called.
Right.
So that is supposed to be for lifestyle changes, for additional costs. And to be honest, even speaking with my colleagues, what I've noticed is that certain people who are naturally inclined to wanting to work out in the world, this is the perfect way to go about it.
Okay.
Because you do get some kind of compensation for, or extra allowances in regards to healthcare, to rent, to sometimes transportation. So that is definitely a pull.
So that would be a good advice for, I mean, because we're constantly looking at the second or third generation, or what I call the subsequent generation diasporans. We need to rope them in one way or another. But clearly, the government, there is no company in Ghana that can afford you.
Yes.
You know, but,
to be honest, yes.
Yes. But if the country in which you are born, Ghanaian American, Ghanaian British, Ghanaian German, Ghanaian French, Ghanaian Australian, you would be the perfect, you're an expat, but you have a natural affinity to Ghana. So it's not, from a paradigm standpoint, it's not too much of a movement for you to come here.
And I think I spoke to a couple of other Afro-Germans, I call us, that are
Afro-German.
also in Ghana right now. And 2 of them also work for German institutes here on ground. So I think it's the best way to go about it if this is your respective field of work.
Okay.
Obviously, this does not conclude every work area, but in the field of international development work,
Okay.
this is something that you can start with, definitely.
Okay.
So, like you said, I am sure some of these places could not afford us in a sense because they would be paying in cities. And if I do the conversion, like, it just wouldn't really...
We probably need to pay you 30,000
it wouldn't really...
Ghana cedis a
it
month
wouldn't really
or
add up.
something.
So
Right.
that's why if right now, obviously you are signing a German contract.
Okay.
So you still, but that also means you still pay taxes at home, right? Even though you're living abroad, you get your pay into your German account, but you are still obliged to
Pay taxes,
Yes.
German tax. What about
Exactly.
Ghanaian taxes?
Oh, that's actually a good question, to be
Okay.
honest.
All right.
Yeah,
It'd be interesting to see how that would, because you don't want to tax anybody double.
that is the thing.
Okay.
That is the thing, because I mean, if you look at even the contract itself, you are you can come and work here, for example, on a visa, right? Some people, when they come here and they want to extend their work, they find a way through the country office to get a residence permit, for example.
Okay.
So I think unless you are actually registered into the system, I think you will not be double taxed,
Right.
because right now there's an end date to your stay.
To your stay. Okay. Does Germany recognize dual citizenship?
Yes.
Okay, so you can hold a German and a Ghanaian passport.
I can, and that's actually the next thing I'm going to do when my resident permit expires.
Okay.
So by then, yes, I am allowed to hold both.
Okay, so then how would that work? If you, let's say you go back home and you're coming back to work and you come on a Ghanaian visa, your Ghanaian passport, you're not coming on a visa. You're actually taking your Ghanaian passport from Germany and you're flying in. How does that make you an expat?
That would actually be a quite interesting question to ask, since you hold both passports.
Right.
So I think as long, from what I understand, what I would just assume is as long as there is, because right now there's an end date to my contract,
Right.
meaning I am here for a temporary stay,
Right.
and afterwards, ideally, that I would go back home. I would go back to Germany.
Yeah.
Now, coming with a Ghanaian passport, that is a good question
Yeah.
to ask, because even within our organization, you do have international and you also have national staff.
Right.
So contract-wise, it's completely
Yeah.
different. Salary-wise, it's
Yeah,
different. So
I mean, if you're under contract, of course, the contract will have to run through with all the
Yes.
parameters and everything. But let's say 2 years from now, your contract is out and you want to renew, but now you have a Ghanaian passport. It'll be interesting what kind of contract they will have with you.
True.
But at the end of the day, they're still getting the same person, same ability to speak German. You have the same. That will be something
I
interesting.
mean, as
to-
long as I do not get double taxed, I really don't mind. As long as
Okay.
I get the better pay and the lesser I really
Hey,
don't mind,
that's
to be honest.
you're no different from
Yes.
the 8 billion people in the
Yeah.
world. All right, so what's the end date? What's the long term? What are you looking at?
So long term, I have a vision, I have an idea, and that's usually how I start things. Even with coming to Ghana, I had a vague idea, and from what I can tell right now, what I foresee for my future is that I will forever have to find a way to bridge both countries.
Okay.
It's part of my personality, it's part of my lifestyle, it's part of what defines me personally and also with work now. So where I work right now, I have to say their catalog of benefits to bridge that gap is extensive.
Okay.
They really, even let's say if I was now looking at also having children, they support you in many different ways to make the life here very sustainable, I would say. So long term, I feel like I would constantly have to bridge both countries, and I'm more than willing to do that because I have found 1 or 2 places like my workplace right now. Where
So
it's
do
just
I get?
seems
Am I
possible.
hearing that you're here for good? You're gonna have children here and raise them here?
See, right now I do get this question quite a lot from family and friends back at home, whereas from family members here. Right now, I don't really know, to be honest. It could be. I mean, I do plan to stay here. I do plan to make this my home base, but that does not mean that I cannot move around freely.
Of course.
Obviously, when it comes to the point of also giving birth, ideally, it would make sense for me to also be surrounded and be at home in Germany to, you know, maybe
To
stay
be
there
pampered
for
by grandpa,
yes,
grandma.
to stay there for a couple of months, you know.
Yeah.
Work-wise, it would make more sense for me to be here, but I think either way, I will forever have to bridge both countries. So I would love to get a direct flight one day, maybe from Germany,
Yeah.
coming here, so I
Yeah.
don't have to always take double flights.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's very heavy also financially. So finding ways to just make that possible.
Talking about bridging the two countries, how do you see? I mean, you're not a diplomat, so this might not be fair to you, but you're an expat, and when you look at the Germans that you work with here, how the experiences here, how they're treated, and everything, compared to Ghanaians and how they were treated, you see any difference? How is
I
it?
do, actually. I think so where I work, I have noticed that there is being great effort being put into, one, making life very much sustainable for expats being here, and two, also not treating national and international staff too different from each other. So I see it in my own team where there is no such thing as, let's say, a group of international people and then the national people. Like, it's very much mixed. Everyone gets along beautifully, and you do see maybe some differences in the hierarchy of the company. Usually the higher you go, the more international it gets.
It gets, right.
But overall, I say everyone gets treated quite good and
Okay.
fairly.
Okay.
Now, to the point of, okay, what I've noticed is that a lot of international people, obviously, because of their extra allowances and the financial reimbursements, are able to live in what I call the prime areas of, you know, Accra. Which, if you look at it, it's just, I think even if it was just their pay, they wouldn't even be staying there. But because you get extra allowances for everything, all of a sudden, renting in cantonments, for example, is easy.
Right.
Because you pay a fraction of the price. Or walking to your workplace in airport or Laboni is a breeze. But what I've noticed is that usually they are quite centered in these kind of areas.
Talk. I like the dynamics where you say the hierarchy. The more international it gets, the lower, the more domestic it gets. I'm curious with the language spoken. Is it English or Deutsch?
See, it's mixed. It is so mixed.
Okay.
And I happen to just be so happy that I'm just in the middle of everything.
Right.
So,
because you're a glue.
I'm telling you, I feel like a glue at work. It is so amazing because obviously everyone at work usually communicates in English. The meetings are in English, everything is in English. But if now, let's say I meet my German colleague and we converse in German, then that's just a conversation between us. Not to exclude anyone, but wherever I enter, obviously I understand everything, just like my German colleagues also understand everything. But it is so much easier to fit into every room and to get along with everybody.
Right.
And obviously over the years of spending time in Ghana and also traveling, I feel like my English has improved to an extent where I don't really
It's a tree that we have to work on.
As for the tree, we have to put in a bit more work.
We have to put in a bit more work.
But these two are covered.
But when you hang with the locals in the office, does tree come up or is just strictly English?
The thing is, what I've noticed, and I've even seen that with friends, when you stay in Accra, unless you actually make a conscious effort to speak and learn Tree, you don't really need it in that kind of sense. Like I've had encounters with people that have been living in Accra for 20 years, visited international schools, always in the same circles, and they do not speak a word. So unless you actually make an effort. I have a really beautiful colleague at work, and I tell her every morning, let's say 1 or 2 things. So I give her the gem and she gives me the tree, but that's where it stops, because it's not like you go outside and you are forced to speak it because everyone understands English. That's just yeah.
It's break time, but before we go, I'm putting you on a spot again. Ghana versus Germany soccer.
Oh.
Which team do you support? Your father is going to look at this video. Your mother is going to look at this video.
I have to say, I would probably go with the winning team. I would just go with the winning team and be on the safe side and claim my 50% of that side.
You know, that's a smart girl. She knows how to answer these tough questions. We'll go on a quick break. We'll be right back. This is Diaspora Weekly.
What's cool, fresh and trendy with a new look? Makes you feel real good, that refreshing vibe.
Satisfies you right just the way you like. Do you know? Do you know? Do you know? Ain't gotta do it alone. Specialized makes you flow. Anytime, anywhere. Specialized feel different. Always think
Special ice, natural mineral water. Feel different, think special. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
All right. Welcome back to our continuing conversation with Chantel Lahmer, who is no stranger to DNT. Before we left, I gave you a nice, innocent question, but you passed with flying colors. So now let's get to my question is, and this is personal to me. I know subsequent generation diaspora who are so eager to relocate home, but their parents, some of them have thrown away their return ticket. Why do you think that is? The kids that were born and raised in the diaspora are eager to come home, but those of us who are born and raised here that live in the diaspora, we want the last pothole to be filled with everything tipped up before we come back. Why?
So if I understand correctly, it is, what you mean is the people or the Ghanaians, like our first generation that has left, when they come back, they seem to be very critical of their
Not only that, they want all I's dotted, all T's crossed before they come. But you guys are more impromptu. Just get up and come. Like you. How long did it take you for you to decide to come back?
I mean, it was a journey, but once I put my mind into it.
But overall, from your first trip here to the decision to relocate, it was how long in between?
Months.
Yes. And you have guys who were born and raised here, who live in the diaspora. And they say, oh, I'll come. Oh, this year I'm coming. And then that year comes. And then they keep procrastinating.
I mean, I have to say, you do have to take into consideration, okay, let's take me and my mom as an example, right? I can get up and decide today to move to Indonesia because I am not tied as much as she is tied.
Okay,
I do not have responsibilities like she has. And also I feel like the responsibilities at home are one thing, but once they come, it's like you're meeting this new wall of financial responsibilities, especially in the whole field of, let's say family and friends. So I cannot really fault them at times to be a bit hesitant or to not come as frequently, because they are more tired. They have more responsibilities. My mom cannot just get up and say right now.
Because you still got your younger siblings to raise. Yeah.
So I think we have to sometimes cut them some
That's
slack.
actually good. But there are people who are in a position to move.
Yeah.
I have a lot of Ghanaians who, in America, we call it the empty nesters.
Okay.
They went home, born and raised here. They went there, raised all their kids. The kids are doctors, this and that. Now they're sitting at home retired, but they don't want to come home.
They don't want to come home, and I think part of it is making the tough decision to ultimately give up your existence in that respective country. Like if now, for example, let's say my mother would decide to come and retire here, even though she's not reached that stage yet, that also means in return her giving up kind of like her existence in Germany and saying, I'm done with this chapter, I've lived here the last 25, 27, 30 years, some even longer, I'm leaving that behind and I'm moving back home. I think even for them it's a big step, you know, even though they were born and raised here, they have gotten so used to a different system that now being back, it can frustrate you on so many different levels, and even making that step and saying, I'm leaving this behind and I'm coming, I think is a tough decision.
Who is more used to the German system? You that was born and raised there, or the one who was born and raised there that went to live
I am
there?
I'm free to move around.
Yeah, I mean, the freedom argument I give you, but what about the... If I didn't know any better, I would say Chantelle is making excuses for these people.
I just think I cut them some slack sometimes because it can, like, it can be hard. I think it can be hard, and I feel like I empathize with them maybe.
Yeah. So what is the mindset coming back into Ghana? What's your mindset? And the reason why I ask is that I had someone sit in this seat who wasn't Ghanaian. He said the difference is that I'm coming to Ghana to make money. I don't care about that pothole. I don't care about this fly on the wall. I don't care about the dust. I'm coming to make money. So I don't come here to criticize. I don't care about none of that. But the Ghanaian they've lived there, they come back and say, oh no, we can do better than this. Look at this. Is that an inhibition?
Okay, so from what I have observed every now and then, and this is not an attack to any Ghanaian living abroad, but I have sometimes the feeling that kind of making it out of the system and then coming back, sometimes the attitude is has changed, right? It is easier for them to, let's say, look down and start criticizing and pointing fingers. And I feel like with any person not living in Ghana and coming here, it is so easy to do this, to point fingers and say, why is this not fixed? Why is that not fixed? And I think I mentioned in our last interview, I cannot come to Ghana and compare or criticize and judge Ghana according to German standard. I cannot come and say...
But the fact of the matter is some of us do.
And it's wrong. It is wrong.
Okay.
I cannot say Ghana lacks infrastructure when Germany has undergone one of the biggest areas of industrialization, for example. I cannot come and get upset over so many things and use Germany as a yardstick and say, this is how we do it back home. But this is not how we do it here. And I think Ghana in general has a lot to learn, and is still in developing in so many different areas. But I have stopped complaining about so many things because it will just drain you. It will drain everyone around you because you're always complaining. Yeah.
But you said that we have a lot to learn, which I agree with you. Are we learning?
Things to learn. I think in the beginning I was a bit more optimistic probably. But I've also noticed that I am not here to... like so many people come and think they are the ones that are going to change everything, and you think you need to have an influence on every person around you. The things that you can influence in a positive way, do it in a way that it doesn't come off like you're speaking down to people. Yeah. Me, for example, I get highly frustrated of, and it's the topic dear to your heart, driving behavior. I get so frustrated about how reckless driving, like on a daily, I feel like I'm so blessed to make it back home, because from the roads to the driving attitude, like it's just so dangerous. And I feel like in that kind of sense, in the beginning, I was much more scared.
Mm-hmm.
And then also so turned towards my outside environment, always getting upset and speaking to people. But at some point, you have to reason with your environment and actually, how should I say?
Some will say that's
Take
accepting
it
mediocrity.
down. Not accepting mediocrity, but you need to channel your energy in certain directions.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot walk outside and walk down the road and complain every day about the road not being fixed.
Okay.
If it's something in my area of influence that I can do to help this matter, yes, but I cannot go around the whole day and complain about what is not working.
If you
know?
got a new job in a company that was really screwed up and they gave you the assignment to fix the place up, is that different from coming to Ghana?
Again, in my respective field, I would 100%, because it is something
You
that
would try to make a change at that job place of work?
Look, I have to say, even looking at my past workplaces that I have left, if, for example, there's an outdated way of going about, let's say randomly, some of the admin stuff, and I feel like I have something to share with my team or with my boss that could improve this whole process, I am more than happy to share it. I complained once about a very inefficient just work setup. To me, the way you work is quite important because you spend hours a day, every day at that place. So I made suggestions as to how maybe things can be changed, but then I feel like I brought too much disruptive energy into the place. So I tried it, but I am also not going to make it my mission to
What was the
restructure
response? I'm
everything.
curious.
It
Was
was
they
mixed.
receptive?
It was mixed. Actually, when I left, I got to hear, and even afterwards for the mums, I got a lot of compliments for being, from my bosses, for being straightforward, for not being shy to share my opinion, even though, let's say, I was interning that time around.
Good.
If I have suggestions and I am, let's say, position-wise, just an intern, and I'm speaking to people that are much higher, I will still share it in a respectful way, but that's what I'm saying, you can share, but don't make it your mission to.
I know, but what we found is that, now granted, I'll grant this to you. There are people who come with the mentality, I'm better, you're nothing, and talk down on you. That's stupid. I'm sorry. But then there are those who come in their honesty, sharing their honest feedback. Hey, maybe you can do it like this, just like you did it on the job. And the response you get, oh, you're too no, as for Ghana, this is how we do it.
I have a prime example for you, right? I have not even been working in my new job for a month. And one thing that I've noticed, which is just, in my opinion, a general issue in lots of corporate workspaces, is it's not organized. It's not organized. You can walk into an office, there's a pile of documents, there are cables everywhere. And to me, I am not able to work in that kind of way.
Environment.
So the first couple of days, I have a beautiful work setup and everything is fine. But I've noticed that the cables are too long. It's just a mess. Every time I sit at my desk, there's just mess of cables. So I went to the IT department to set up. That time around, I was really setting up my work for my laptop. I had not even completed doing that. And I said, oh, actually at home in Germany, my office, I have a way of organizing my things. Do you by chance have cable binders anywhere? And he said, no, he hasn't. So that weekend when I was shopping, I went to go buy a pack of 500 cable binders, and I brought it back, and it cost me less than 40 cedis. And I gave them to me. I was like, oh, see, this is a way. Maybe you can start with my office, and we can just sort out a couple of things. And he thought it was a great idea. We started with mine, we continued with the next desk, and he, over the week, took these binders and started organizing the cables so that when you walk in, you have a clean, organized space. And that is a way I feel like in your approach, you have to come from a very, like, how should I say? Yeah, it's constructive. I'm not criticizing. I'm not saying the place looks a mess because that is me speaking down on you and your work. I am just suggesting that, oh,
can you constructively criticize?
What do you think?
Is there any constructive way of criticizing a trotro driver?
Double beeping. Double and triple beeping, because I don't know. That's what I'm saying. That is out of my influence. Trotro drivers are different.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to be bringing this to an end, but what message do you have for the Chantelles of Germany, Chantelles of France, Chantelles of UK, Chantelles of Canada, Chantelles of US, all
Okay.
the people like you, born to Ghanaian parents, and looking at Ghana here of return, we've come, we had a good time at Fricella, and now this place, it'd be great to live here. What advice do you have for them?
I actually have what I would say the perfect platform. Actually, 2 years ago, I started my own blog where I share everything that I feel like I would have wanted to receive in this whole journey. So an online platform for people like me, like other Chantelles all over. And from lifestyle to diaspora to travel to everyday kind of tricks to just anything related to Ghana and making the move and actually living here, I am sharing all of that on my blog. And it has been super, like my community is super strong, they're super connected and the feedback has been so positive that I really embarked on that journey and dump everything that I feel like can be of advice on that place. So
have you met a lady by the name Christabel Datsy?
yes, a
A
husband.
Diaspora.
Yes.
Okay, what you doing sounds like a Diaspora, right?
I mean, I'm not offering services yet.
Yet, okay.
But I am sharing the everyday kind of advice that usually I get the inspiration from the questions that I get asked.
Okay.
So there are certain topics or certain questions that I see on messages, phone calls, and whenever I feel like there's a need to just make a general statement about something, I put everything down.
Very
And
good.
I feel like these platforms are really, really helpful. They help you find a community. They help you find like-minded people. And I feel like when I came, I was not really aware of these communities. And I had my closest relationships around me really helping me throughout the whole process. But that's what I want to be for like-minded people.
Right.
So that when they do have a question, they do feel like I need a guide on how to maneuver around.
Yeah.
That is the platform that I created.
In
for
your
them.
circle of friends back in Dortmund, those who have roots in Ghana or other African countries, if you took a poll and the question is simply, do you want to go and live back in your country? What do you think the yes percentage would be?
Okay, not all of them are Ghanaian. It is a
I mean,
mix.
I'm talking about Ghanaian Germans, Afro-Germans,
Yeah, but
meaning
no, I mean-
Cameroonians and all those places.
I mean, some of them, for example, are Congolese, Togolese,
That's what I'm
Nigerian.
saying. If you asked all of them, what would you think
I think some of them just based on their home country.
or the circumstances
Yes, the
at home? Okay,
circumstances.
that would.
As for, let's say, Afro-Germans, like the Ghanaians, I would say there's a general notion of everyone wanting to do something at home. Everybody is inclined, and I would say that is, let's say 9 out of 10 people, is inclined to either start something back home, find a way to
Back home in Ghana.
Back home in Ghana, find a way to generate income, find a project. Like there's always the need to do more than just a holiday, because so many activities from us, even in Germany, are so inspired by Ghanaian culture and just that side of us. So I feel like 9 out of 10 people would say they want to do something,
Yeah.
but not permanently.
Permanent move here.
I cannot say.
Okay.
Maybe 50-50 or even less than 50,
Less than
to
50.
be honest, less than that.
But that's good to know. I mean, I'm really impressed that the subsequent generation Ghanaian in the diaspora are really connected back home.
True.
It just tells us that we have done our work in the diaspora. We, the parents, we've done our work
you
and
have,
everything.
yes.
And like you, if I'm hearing you say this, that it may not be exactly the same with other African countries. Is that what I'm hearing you?
Yeah, I feel like Ghana, even if you read online, is the gateway to West Africa. We have so many ways to make life easier compared to some other countries. For
Okay.
example, it's more complicated for you to take a family vacation in Congo,
Yeah.
or maybe even in Nigeria. Like it's a bit
Yeah, right.
different. I feel like Ghana is relatively easy to start with,
Yeah.
and yeah, you cannot really go on that same journey to maybe other West African countries.
Very good. Chantelle, it was great having you.
My pleasure.
Do I do this or do I shake your
I
hand?
think now we can even.
We
do
can
the
now we
shaking
can share
hands,
hands.
yes.
COVID is no longer here. This has been great edition of Diaspora Weekly. Chantelle, always a pleasure to have you.
My pleasure.
Thanks for watching.